For years, Greece was the cradle of Western civilization. Ancient ruins, sun-soaked islands, a Mediterranean lifestyle envied worldwide. But behind the postcard image, a different story is unfolding. Record numbers of young people are fleeing, the population is collapsing at an alarming rate, and an entire economy rests precariously on tourists who stay less and spend less every year. How did the birthplace of democracy become a nation on the brink? Today, we're uncovering why Greece is going broke and what it will take to save one of Europe's oldest nations from demographic extinction. Greece's economy looks strong on paper. GDP growth is outpacing major European economies. But peel back that surface and you'll find a foundation built on sand. The country welcomed over 40 million tourists in 2025, nearly 4 times its entire population. Tourism now accounts for 25 to 30% of GDP. On islands like Santorini, that figure hits 90%. This isn't diversification, it's economic addiction. Here's the problem. While tourist numbers keep breaking records, the actual money they're bringing in is shrinking. The average visitor now spends just €531 per trip, down from €640 in 2010. Tourists are staying for shorter periods, just 5.9 nights compared to 9.3 nights a decade ago. When adjusted for inflation, real tourism income in 2025 was actually 1.6% lower than it was in 2019, despite millions more visitors. The mayor of Athens summed up the absurdity perfectly. Each visitor brings just 40 cents to the city. That's less than the cost of a coffee. Meanwhile, these record visitor numbers are crushing infrastructure, driving up housing costs, and degrading the very beaches and ancient sites that draw people in. In surveys, 65% of Greeks say tourism makes goods more expensive, and nearly 79% blame it for skyrocketing rents. But here's the deeper issue. Tourism is a low-productivity sector. Greece employs 17% of its workforce in tourism, 3 times the EU average. These are seasonal, low-wage jobs that don't drive innovation or build lasting economic strength. While other countries invested in high-tech manufacturing, Greece doubled down on sun, sea, and ancient history. Now the bill is coming due. There's another silent killer strangling Greece's economy: corruption. Greece scored just 49 out of 100 on Transparency International's 2025 Corruption Perceptions Index, ranking 59th globally and 24th among 27 EU member states. Only Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary rank lower. This costs Greece between €11 billion and €16 billion annually, up to 9% of GDP. The numbers are staggering. Greece's shadow economy represents 20.9% of GDP, 45 to 50 billion euros in black money circulating outside the tax system every year. Germany's is just 13.5%. Tax evasion hits 30 billion euros yearly. In 2014, the government collected 28% less VAT than owed, about 4.9 billion euros, double the EU average. Greeks hold 80 billion euros in Swiss accounts, with only 1% declared as taxable income. 7 out of 10 self-employed Greeks underreport earnings. The corruption isn't always dramatic. It's fake lachi, cash envelopes to expedite permits or hospital appointments. It's contracts awarded by connections, not merit. In 2009, undeclared income from professionals hit 28 billion euros, over 10% of GDP. This hits hardest where Greece can least afford it. Foreign investors see political scandals and go elsewhere. Entrepreneurs face a system where success depends on connections. Young people watch mediocrity rise while merit drowns in red tape. Small wonder they leave. The government established the National Transparency Authority in 2019 and pushed digital payments, which jumped 24% to 31 billion euros. But when bribes supplement salaries and corruption is normalized, resources flow to whoever works the system best. Innovation dies. Productivity stagnates. The talented leave. Greece's 2009 debt crisis is often framed as history. The country exited bailout programs in 2018, but the public debt to GDP ratio stood at 154.2% in 2025. While down from its peak of over 210%, it remains one of the highest in the developed world. Greece may have stabilized, but it's still carrying a mountain of debt that constrains every policy choice. The crisis years scarred the nation. GDP dropped 25%. Youth unemployment peaked at nearly 60%. Pensions were slashed, public sector wages cut, hospitals starved of funding. Today's growth masks underlying fragility. Investment in real terms was almost 50 percentage points lower in 2025 than in 2008. Decades of underinvestment hollowed out infrastructure, education, and public services. Roads crumble, hospitals lack equipment. These aren't just inconveniences, they're barriers to competitiveness. As the population shrinks and ages, who will generate the tax revenue to service this debt? People of pensionable age totaled 23.3% of the population in 2025, up from just 14.5% in 2001. Their share is expected to peak at 36% in 2055. Greece's fundamental problem isn't tourism or debt or demographics in isolation, it's that the economy never transformed. In 2025, Greece had the second lowest labor productivity among the EU 27, coming only above Bulgaria. 2 decades ago, Greece ranked 13th in European productivity. This isn't recovery, it's managed decline. Only 11% of the Greek workforce is employed in manufacturing, about 60% of the EU average. High-tech exports are minimal, research spending is anemic. Meanwhile, small, unproductive businesses dominate due to overly complex legislation and regulatory burdens. This creates a vicious cycle. Talented people see limited opportunities and leave. Their departure means fewer skilled workers to build innovative companies. Without innovation, productivity stagnates. Without productivity growth, wages can't rise. Without higher wages, more people leave. The cycle repeats. Countries like Poland, once far behind Greece, have raced ahead by building diverse, high-productivity economies. Greece's problem isn't lack of effort. Greeks work some of the longest hours in Europe. The problem is structural. The economy is organized around low-productivity activities that can't generate the wealth needed for a developed nation's living standards. The brain drain initially seemed like a crisis response, young Greeks fleeing impossible unemployment. But something changed. The exodus became permanent. Across Europe, Greek professionals earn substantially more for the same work. The pay gap can reach 200% in certain fields. Those who left found what Greece couldn't offer: functioning institutions, career progression, and the dignity of not fighting bureaucracy at every turn. One couple in their early 30s captured it perfectly. If you have to work 10 to 12 hours a day and not earn enough money, how can you buy a house? We couldn't even imagine starting a family. The Greek government has tried to lure people back. Returning Greeks can enjoy up to 50% tax reductions for 7 years. The minimum wage rose 35% over 5 years. A program called Rebrain Greece offers top talent €3,000 monthly salaries, with government covering 70% of the cost. But the response has been lukewarm. Only about 10,000 people have taken advantage of tax incentives. Why? Because Greece still lags behind. The minimum wage is €830, significantly lower than France, and the average annual income is half the European average. Recent data shows a slight reversal. In 2023, more Greeks returned than left for the first time since the crisis. But don't mistake this for victory. Hundreds of thousands remain abroad. Many returnees cite family reasons, not economic opportunity. Once kids are in schools abroad, once mortgages are secured in Berlin or London, the window closes. While Athens and Santorini drown in tourists, something eerie is happening in the rest of Greece. Entire villages are emptying out. By 2070, Greece's population could shrink by 25%, way above the EU average of 4%. In 2022 alone, deaths nearly doubled births, 140,000 to 77,000. That's not a statistic. It's a civilization in retreat. At 1.3 children per woman, Greece has one of the lowest fertility rates in Europe. You need 2.1 just to maintain population levels. The country is literally dying out. Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis called it an existential threat to Greek society. The 2009 debt crisis triggered a population exodus. Between 2010 and 2022, over 1.08 million working-age people left Greece. These weren't just any immigrants. 2 out of 3 were university graduates. Engineers, doctors, scientists, entrepreneurs. The very people who could rebuild the economy, gone. Nearly 60% of those leaving are aged 25 to 44, the most productive demographic. The villages tell the story. Schools close when there aren't enough children. Doctors retire and no one replaces them. Local businesses shutter. By 2050, government forecasts predict the population will plunge from 10.4 million to just 7.5 million. That's a loss of nearly 30% in one generation. Everything we've discussed, the tourism addiction, population collapse, brain drain, lingering debt, productivity crisis, these aren't separate problems. They're threads of the same unraveling fabric, but the window to act is closing fast. Every year Greece delays is another year of shrinking workforce and lost talent. By 2050, more than 35% of Greeks will be over 65. What would real change look like? Greece needs to dramatically upgrade its economic complexity. That means investing heavily in education, research, and high-value industries. It means cutting through bureaucratic red tape that strangles business creation. Infrastructure spending on ports, digital networks, and green energy, not just more hotels. The country has to move beyond seasonal tourism into year-round high-value sectors. On demographics, half measures won't work. Countries that reversed fertility decline did so through comprehensive support, affordable childcare, flexible work arrangements, housing policies that let young people build families. Greece needs to make it economically feasible to have children again. But even with aggressive policies, demographic recovery takes decades. The real question is whether Greece has the political will. The voting population is aging and tends toward conservatism. Older voters benefit from pensions and property values. They have less stake in long-term transformation. Meanwhile, the young who would benefit most are either too disillusioned to engage or have already left. This creates a trap where necessary reforms are politically toxic. Greece's story is a warning. You can survive a debt crisis, restructure finances, and post decent growth numbers. But if you don't fix the underlying structure, the problems come roaring back. A nation cannot thrive on nostalgia and tourism alone. Ancient history doesn't pay for modern healthcare. Beaches don't fund pensions, and a shrinking population can't support a growing elderly cohort. The paradise is still there. The islands remain breathtaking. The culture endures. But a country is more than scenery. It's people, ideas, productivity, and hope for the future. Right now, Greece is losing all four. The question isn't whether Greece will face a crisis. It's already in one, just slower and quieter than 2009. The question is whether anyone will act before it's too late. Because once a generation is gone and a population has collapsed, there's no easy way back. The window is open, but it's closing. What kind of Greece will this generation leave behind?